Welcome back. Recently, I posted a poll asking which dessert you prefer, and to my absolute shock, 3/4 of my audience prefers apple crisp to apple pie. Now I can admit that I'm kind of picky when it comes to apple pies, but I'll gladly inhale any apple crisp that's put in front of me, so I think I understand the results pretty well. That said, I do have a favorite apple crisp recipe, and today I'd like to share it with you. Don't forget to like the video, and subscribe for more homemade food. I've been watching a lot of cooking videos on YouTube lately, and I find it really annoying when you have to listen to 15 minutes of someone's life story, dotted with ingredients and amounts that you need like Easter eggs. So from now on, I'll put the ingredients on screen at this point, and probably in the description too, if I remember. Now that that's out of the way, let's get started. The recipe as written calls for 6 cups of sliced, peeled apples, but I have no idea who's out here measuring sliced apples by the cup. Let me know in the comments, do you actually put sliced apples in a measuring cup, or do you do what I'm about to do and eyeball it? I feel like a recipe using a unit like cups for an ingredient like sliced apples is really just asking me to estimate, and I feel like 6 cups is between 5 and 8 apples, depending on the size. I ended up using 7. A better way to measure how many apples you need is to just fill your pan between half and 3/4 full, or just look at how full mine is when I'm done. If you use too many apples and overfill your pan, it might boil over in the oven. Just put a sheet pan underneath if you're worried about making a mess. As for pan size, the bottom of my pan says 2.2 quarts or 2 liters, and it measures 11 by 7 inches. You might have noticed this weird contraption I'm using to process my apples. And while I'm not usually a fan of single-use kitchen gadgets, for me, this is an exception. Invented in 1864 by David Goodell, these lathe-style apple peelers also slice the apple and remove the core all at once. You just secure the apple onto the metal prongs, turn the handle, and perfectly sliced apples come out the other end. Usually. While you could do this with a paring knife, I find this a whole lot faster and more fun. Usually I use it to process 5 or 10 pound bags of imperfect apples, then weigh and vacuum seal them in portions, but these were the last apples in my fridge, and this seemed like a good way to use them up. If you've been watching my other videos, you know I'm a huge fan of putting in a little more work up front if it means that I have less to do the next time I go to cook. If you feel the same way about peeling, coring, and chopping up apples, you might want to pick one of these up. I've seen them called things like 3-in-1 apple peelers, old-fashioned apple peelers, and lathe-style apple peelers, so they should be fairly easy to find online. I think KitchenAid also makes an attachment that does something similar, but I'd be afraid of motorizing the process. In a best-case scenario, it would be faster, but I feel like it'd end up throwing apple chunks across the room. Plus, I find something satisfying about using a 160-year-old invention to make dessert. But maybe that's just me. I'm saving all the peels and cores in the freezer for a future video on the channel, so don't worry, they're not going to waste. Once your apples are peeled and sliced, measure out 1/4 cup of maple syrup and about a teaspoon of vanilla, then pour it over top. I usually mix them together first to make sure the vanilla is evenly distributed, but I doubt that it really makes a huge difference. Measure 1/2 cup or 115 grams of butter into a pan of your choice. I prefer cast iron, but stainless steel is another really good option here. I would try to avoid non-stick coated pans if you can, but if that's all you have, that's all you have. I've never tried it on a non-stick pan, but the internet says that it works, so good luck. Starting in a cold pan, set your heat on medium-low until the butter melts, then start to raise the temperature slowly. You need the butter hot enough to bubble, but not so hot that it splatters. The goal is to caramelize the milk solids in the butter, which gives it a nutty, toasted flavor, similar to roasting a marshmallow over a campfire. You're looking for golden browned, not blackened. Brown butter gives you 2 major hints when it's done. The first is the sound. As more water is driven off as steam and the bubbles start getting smaller and smaller, the simmering sound will suddenly disappear. Shortly after, you'll see some caramelized milk solids turning your newly formed foam orange, and giving it a stir, you should see some small pebbly brown particulate in the bottom of your pan. Those are the caramelized milk solids I was talking about, and they're what makes brown butter delicious, so don't leave any behind when you add it to your mixing bowl. You could probably have gotten the rest of your ingredients ready while you're browning your butter, but I've only got one camera, so we'll pretend I did it on purpose to let the butter cool. Yeah. To a mixing bowl, add 1 1/4 cups of oats, 1/3 cup of flour. Ignore that I accidentally used 1/2 cup of flour, 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and cinnamon to taste. I probably used a tablespoon, but use more or less depending on how much you like cinnamon. If you used unsalted butter earlier, add a pinch of salt now. And remember, this is sort of a baseline recipe, so feel free to change up the fruit by adding some rhubarb or cranberries, or maybe add some extra spices to the crisp like powdered ginger or cloves. The world is your oyster. Just don't make oyster crisp. That sounds dreadful. Use a whisk, or your hands, I guess, to break up any lumps of sugar, then add the brown butter, making sure not to miss any of the milk solids in the bottom of the pan. Mix it together with a wooden spoon or a spatula of your choice, and once all the butter is soaked into the oats, you're done. This made a little more crisp than I meant to, since I added more flour than I was supposed to, but I'd call that a happy accident. Spread the crisp over your apples as evenly as you feel like, then put it into an oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 40 minutes. You'll know it's done when the oats are starting to brown and crisp up, and the apples are tender when poked. Honestly, I've made this so many times I can tell when it's done by the smell when I walk past the oven, and in this case, about 42 minutes. Now comes the hardest part of the recipe. Set it on a rack, and leave it alone until it cools. Apple crisp is best served warm, but if you scoop into it before it's had a chance to set, a lot of the butter and juices will end up at the bottom of the pan instead of on your spoon. When I was growing up, we always had apple pie and vanilla ice cream at family dinners, but as an adult, I really do prefer apple crisp. There's a better contrast of flavors and textures, and without having to worry about something going wrong with pie crust, it's pretty much foolproof. This is the apple crisp recipe I've settled on as my favorite, and hopefully you'll enjoy it too. Let me know in the comments what you'd do differently, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more homemade food.